Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Right Opinion, the home of a twat with too much free time. And I thought we'd cover some drama that's a bit more recent because, oh my, do we adore the drama. Now, I've covered Twitch streamers before, and I'll cover Twitch streamers again because they are an interesting set of people, and in spite of the fact that many of them are collectivized into a category by commentators, they are all at least somewhat distinguished in what they do. In a video last year, I covered Zoie Burgher, someone whose rise to meteoric stardom was paired with an equally catastrophic fall. She was an absolute magnet of drama, and one of the more sexually suggestive characters out of that legion. But at the same time, she was her own individual. She was banned off Twitch and mainly gained infamy for antics on YouTube and the subsequent drama that yielded. On the other hand, we have female streamers who may well be considered attractive by their audience. I mean, who doesn't want to look their best on camera, but at the same time doesn't necessarily seek to exploit that. And this is where we reach Pokimane. Pokimane is someone who is established on both YouTube and Twitch, with over 2.5 million subscribers / followers on each platform. That's something which obviously cannot be ignored. She does some gaming, she does some reaction-based videos, but overall, as people go, she's not an individual who has received exceptional controversy. This is fairly typical for most genres with a fairly undemanding audience, much less demanding than the ones who watch critical commentators like myself. Most commentators also tend to have a list of people who are controversial and easy to make videos on. This is a rotating list of people including Rice Gums, The Pools, Morgs, KSI, Deji, so maybe some of the beauty community now, maybe throw in Emma Chamberlain too. Maybe you like making thought pieces on who the next content cop is going to be on, or even if there will be a new content cop at all. What this means is that although people will be doing shady or at least debatable actions, if people aren't focusing on them, then it will probably pass under the radar. And a lot of creators, including the person we're going to discuss today, have been sheltered from that sort of environment until now. However, as spoken in the past, the alienation of drama can often mean that when it eventually does confront one of these people, it means they are way out of their depth with no idea of how to actually handle it. Generally, this has meant that in the history of Twitch streamers versus commentators, the Twitch streamers tend to lose. Looking back to Pyrocynical versus Zoie Burgher, PewDiePie versus Legality, and yes, in both of those situations, for example, it's fairly reasonable to argue that you could side with Pyrocynical and PewDiePie in those situations regardless of outcome. But as much as the circumstance does comprise the drama, the handling and the presentation are equally important. Another real problem is how a lot of this drama can often be perceived. Expose videos have been monopolized recently by the commentary genre, and so attempting to make any sort of response to them is the equivalent of going to play an away match. You're entering someone else's stadium and you'll be attracting their audience, even if you're responding on your own channel. One of the problems with a lot of drama is that it always feels like an us versus them situation. You really are expected to side with one of the people involved, but sometimes there is a clear moral high ground when it comes to these claims. But often when there isn't, we have to look a bit more closer than many people choose to. The thing about drama is that whatever it yields, it can be assumed as some sort of moral standard, even though we often forget about the conclusions we make and just contradict ourselves in the future. I'm a man who does enjoy some consistency. Because whatever disputes occur do have reputational legacies, and it's important that we're holding people to account but not unfairly singling them out because of some subconscious bias. So let's talk about today's situation. On the 28th of December, a very small YouTuber by the name of Fainted released a video called The Dark Side of Pokimane, in which he alleged that while the public's back was turned, Pokimane had done some pretty shady stuff. I'll be breaking down the details in a moment, but like some of the most infamous streamers in the past, some of the main claims were on the notion of copyright striking, or as many people now like to call it, copy striking. Firstly, in the instant of a series of uploaded Twitter clips on a feud between her and Keemstar, and secondly on a channel that re-uploaded stream clips of her known as Davsev. These are both fairly separate situations, but fell under the umbrella of criticism that Pokimane was facing down. When he uploaded a video, Fainted had a few hundred subscribers, but the video blew up and he's in a quite different position, it's safe to say. Everyone loves a good old success story. On top of this, Feinted's video contained multiple allegations of hypocrisy, particularly implied through the situation in which Pokimane criticized Keemstar for allegedly bullying a fan, promoting a principle that many claimed was contradicted by her behavior towards the subjects of Feinted's video. Then a couple weeks later, on the 11th of January, PewDiePie uploaded a video with the classic title "Stop Doing This," in which he requested a host of YouTubers to, well, stop doing this. This being the unwarranted copyright striking of other videos that seemingly didn't deserve them. In this list was the lady herself, Pokimane, and the fact that she had allegedly struck down the Twitter feud, which, as pointed out by PewDiePie, had been picked up by the algorithms and were being publicized, and Pokimane probably wanted to keep it out of the public eye. However, this caused a classic Streisand effect and now has the platform's largest YouTuber covering it. Well, we'll see how he's doing against T-Series by the time this video comes out. So clearly, with a lot of allegations staring herself down, Pokimane decided to make her response video, in which she addressed some of the claims made against her. She admits some of her transgressions, but also decides to hold her ground on some points, particularly the situation regarding Davsev, which is an interesting one. She also responds directly to both PewDiePie and Feinted, including clips of their videos, which of course provokes an additional response from Feinted, which was mainly rebutting Pokimane's response and some of the points that she made, kind of concluding that Pokimane's response was insufficient in the scope of actually responding, and more just a way to dodge and reframe a lot of what's going on. But is that the case? Because honestly, watching through Feinted's initial video, I wasn't really won over. I thought it was a bit weak, but I can see why other people were won over. Equally, I don't think that any of the conclusions necessarily that I've observed make Pokimane a bad person per se. But I still think she's made a huge mistake, and when your ratings are going badly, there's always a reason. So today I don't want this to be an exposed video, it's not, but more a guide on why people might turn against you in the face of drama, and how, as someone who has probably never dealt with it before, can take it on in the future. Because, you know, that's what we do here on The Right Opinion. One of the most contentious issues on the platform is that of fair use. We have some sort of vague marker about the do's and the don'ts, but when a situation that blurs the lines comes about, it often throws the community into chaos, with no clear argument on what is actually right. On top of this, it is a really passionate topic. People care a hell of a lot, and if you're doing it unjustly, you are going to have an uphill battle defending yourself. This is the first situation that comes about with Pokimane, because what happened, as both testified by her and Feinted, is basically Keemstar was on Twitter, had an argument with some fans of another creator, the colourful character SS Snipewolf, before Pokimane stepped into the fray to go toe-to-toe with Keem in a Twitter video battle. But then a load of people contributed as well, and a load of memes, and a load of people who I'm not familiar with because I don't use this damn site enough.
Right there. This nigga organization is actually kind of on fleek. The shadows even, you could tell these are stacked up even though the angle fucking sucks. And right here, this nigga's wires is in place.
Now, after a discussion, it was assumed to be over, and many people continued with their lives. However, a compilation of this discussion was downloaded and re-uploaded onto YouTube, and it clearly caught people's attention. And because it caught people's attention, YouTube decided that it was going to blow the video up. So suddenly this drama that Pokimane probably regretted involving herself in the first place was blowing up all over YouTube, and there was nothing she could do about it, or so people thought, because Pokimane decided to have her company Omnia Media remove the video and deal a claim onto the YouTuber known as Boblax. Now, most people believe he received a strike straight away, but actually this was a miscommunication and something that has been clarified recently through additional research. However, even with that said, it did eventually turn into a strike due to the appeals, and for anyone who doesn't know, a copyright strike has a significant effect on the mobility of a channel, even if it's only one. It causes a fair bit of stress and takes a few months to expire. So on one hand, you have Feinted and PewDiePie who called out Pokimane for doing this. Of course, it's annoying when something like this blows out of proportion, but such a response is rather uncalled for.
So in a way, I can understand why you want to take down this video, because this selected thing blows up and becomes even bigger thanks to YouTube's system being kind of stupid. At least I can somewhat understand the motivation of trying to take down that video. But the problem here and the same problem that goes with every single example that I brought up in this video, is that you're just drawing more attention to it. It's the Streisand effect every single time.
Pokimane responds to them saying that although she felt perfectly within legal right to remove the video, she understands that it was a morally problematic decision to take.
Although I was legally within my right to take down the video, morally and as a content creator, it wasn't something that I should have done because, I mean, at the end of the day, those were tweets that me and Keem made publicly and videos that we made publicly.
Feinded then disputes this using his commentary credentials by citing a Keemstar tweet.
You know, I'm not even going to bother giving my opinions on this. We'll just leave that to the man himself, Keemstar. Pokimane, I think you're confused on what transformative means. The video where they played both our Twitter vids was transformative because it's a collage of multiple clips. There's case law on this. It's not a direct upload like you stated. You could get sued for false flagging.
This gave me the impression that he seemed to think that the video was fair use because it was in a compilation format. And so I want to put this on hold for a moment because I notice a problem in the reasoning. Firstly, I think, contrary to my friend's belief here, that actually Pokimane was completely in her, quote, legal rights to remove the video, even though there is some sort of claim that this has been put to test in the courts. I cannot find it, and I highly doubt a compilation of clips would be considered fair use considering some of the other cases, even if they're done in a way that shows a chronologically arranged discussion, which could be considered part of the transformation. Dealing with fair use is incredibly complicated. We know where the extremes lie. We know that Chris Stuckman's film reviews are almost certainly fair use, and we know that re-uploads of Coldplay songs are most likely not fair use. But a lot of the content falls in between, and therefore the only way to resolve this is through the courts. Either way, fair use or not, I find this whole debacle to be a bit of a non-argument, and if Pokimane was taken to court over this, I think she'd win. But here's the thing, just because something is legally accepted doesn't mean we should accept it. Laws are typically based off some sort of moral foundations, and therefore when Pokimane accepted that regardless of legality her move was morally dubious, it should have technically invalidated her argument because generally we perceive ourselves on the basis of morality. And therefore, if she actively did something that she's aware was immoral, then legality only exists as a technical defense to avoid being sued. Just because something's legal does not make it moral, and therefore means we shouldn't necessarily accept it. Laws themselves exist for that reason, for the betterment of society. What do we build the laws on? We build those laws on principles. Laws are partly built on morals, and we're always debating what should and should not be changed. If you can't morally justify your actions, then the fact that it's legal does not serve as a defense, other than, of course, in court. But audiences are not jurors, they're just people who have opinions. The thing is that although I'm generally against re-uploaded content, I feel that these circumstances make the situation much more of an archiving of a conversation that occurred. Trying to mute what unfortunately happened and could have been archived any other way is where the issue lies, and I don't think that was a reasonable action on her part. And I think me and her can agree there now. And this is one of the things, she uses this term in a way that I would call a passive defense. Basically, she doesn't run the point as if it's counter to her position on the situation or the point she's trying to make. She still concedes, apologizes, and admits she was wrong, and fair play for that.
Although I was legally within my right to take down the video, morally and as a content creator, it wasn't something that I should have done because, I mean, at the end of the day, those were tweets that me and Keem made publicly and videos that we made publicly. So I totally apologize for that. And I spoke to the guy who made those videos like a few weeks back, and we had resolved all of this in DMs.
However, because she made the point, Fainted can extract it and run against it. And as a passive defense, her video really could have done without it. A passive defense is only really utilized as a rhetorical device to demonstrate reasonability, and I think that's what Poki was trying to do here. But the problem is that when you're defending yourself, a passive defense has to explain your mindset rather than necessarily justify your ability to commit the action. For example, I say, I'm sorry for shouting at that lady. I was drunk and depressed, but it was completely wrong of me. Rather than, I'm sorry for shouting at that lady. I was well within my rights to do it, but it was completely wrong nonetheless. Because it's a moral issue, the way I've worded the second explanation sounds like a scapegoat, because it sounds like I've shifted part responsibility onto the legal system for allowing me to do it. And that's where you have to be very careful on how it comes across. I find Pokimane's response genuinely interesting because I think it's one of the first ones that clearly have the correct base formula down. When responding to something that you know is wrong, it's important to admit your mistakes, but at the same time, try to make sure the audience can empathize with the mindset you're in. And she does appear to attempt that and lay that structure down, but she just pulls the wrong points in. There is a right way and a wrong way to justify yourself, and this tends to lean the wrong way. This is a problem particularly evident throughout Pokimane's response. The emphasis of her points do not reflect the points that are of interest to the audience. Everything that might be relevant seems rather brushed over. I don't think it's her intent, but it can come across as rather dismissive. Equally, I don't think it's her intent to necessarily misframe the claims being made against her. But
some people were saying that I pulled up his personal Instagram and made fun of him or something.
So what she does is honestly pretty evil. Poki finds Davsev's personal Instagram page and then just laughing at pictures of him.
He had his Instagram linked in the description of the videos that he was posting, so it was not like a personal or private Instagram. I didn't attack the way that he looked, and obviously he was watching my stream while he was on the call with me, and he saw that I was looking at his Instagram. He said, "Do you like what you see?"
Oh,
Showing off
you like me?
all this stuff.
But yeah, I don't like people trying to make it seem like I would go to someone's Instagram with ill intent just to bash on them.
Hey, hold on a minute. What kind of cutting was that, bro? She just completely cut up my point. Poki finds Davsev's personal Instagram page and then just laughing at pictures of him. Let me show you what it actually looked like, and then you can probably guess why Pokimane didn't include that in her video. Poki finds Davsev's personal Instagram page and literally starts looking through it and laughing at it in front of thousands of viewers.
problem here is that she's gone into it like a lot of public figures. They come from a genre where optics and wording don't seem like a big deal, and suddenly making vague statements is fairly easy for a commentator like Fainted, who I don't even rate as an argumentation expert. You have to be specific, you have to be clear with what you mean, and you cannot misframe the situation to be disproportionately sympathetic to your case or disproportionately harsh against another person, because there is nobody who will pick that up like the commentators. And I think this is a really important learning experience that we should definitely take forward going into the second situation.
Why are you wearing your shorts like that?
The thing about the Davsev situation is that if Pokimane had approached it correctly, then she could have been in the clear. This is the real pivotal situation that galvanized a lot of the drama, and to completely apprehend how to respond, she kind of had to understand exactly what people's objections were to the original scenario. And once again, Fainted, on one hand, had a much harder sell. Davsev was clearly an annoying twat, and frankly, people are not inclined to side with someone they may perceive as an annoying twat.
I make YouTube videos about you.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Do you make YouTube videos or do you re-upload other people's content?
I steal content and then like edit some shit and like put credits, and I'm like, oh my god, dudes, please subscribe.
But the thing Fainted very smartly did was not side with Davsev. By not necessarily defending Davsev, he knew that if Pokimane decided to try and couple him to Davsev in any sort of way, then he could object and point out the flaw in her argument, because Pokimane didn't pay close enough attention to respond meticulously. She makes some very vague claims and thus suffers because of them, even though with better wording, she could have really put it to bed.
At this point in the discussion, I think everybody can agree that Pokimane is in the right here, because of course if this guy's proud of the fact that he's uploading clickbait videos, it kind of tells us a lot about his character. So if the video he's uploaded consists of literally just a stream clip nabbed from her live stream, then in that case I think she 100% has the right to take down the video.
But because once again she focuses on one issue which she doesn't really respond to properly. She first cuts Fainted's clip up in a way that changes the message. Now whether she wanted to do that for efficiency or not is besides the point. It came across as twisting information. Equally, it's really important to not be distracted by the general representation of the points. Fainted may be a smaller YouTuber, but right now he is the one with the momentum, and therefore if you want to respond to him, you have to make sure his arguments are being communicated properly, and that equally you make sure there's no confusion. For example, this earlier clip.
And people have been using clips from that live stream to try to make it look like I randomly take down videos whenever I want, or I do that commonly when it's definitely not the case.
Right, so now Daddy Fainted's getting called out. I'm pretty sure in my video I never mentioned anything about her frequently taking down videos. My video was focused on your hypocrisy.
Now, as noted, Fainted lays claim that this clip is about him, but Poki never actively says it is, and there's fair evidence to assume that from other YouTubers, this narrative isn't rare. So it's very possible that Poki caught other videos or comments from people, but because she put it in her title that she's responding to the dark side of Pokimane, it implies that this is a narrative that is local to his video, even though it's not. It is actually a general narrative that is somewhat existent in other YouTubers who have made videos and got decent views.
Pokimane recently seems to be going around doing a lot of scummy things, pretty much. She's striking out a bunch of smaller creators. She's making people cry in front of 20,000 people right on stream. And she's honestly just, you know, a thought.
I want to put it out there that I never knowingly take down a video that is transformative content. I would not take down videos that people have spent time like creating commentary for and editing and piecing together. I don't think that's fair at all. And obviously that's why there's tons of videos out there, Twitch compilations when I'm still in them, or critiques of me or drama, or videos that I'm in that are positive or negative that I don't take down.
Now I say this because she uses the phrase people. Fainted is not people, Fainted is a person as far as I know. And I think we can deduce here that once again she's trying to address a different narrative being pushed by certain YouTubers. The problem is when you put someone's video title in your title, it sounds like you're addressing them. Fainted had no real right to lay claim to that comment other than that fact. It would have been narcissistic to assume that his video was the only one that promoted a narrative like that. Equally, by addressing some narratives and overlooking others, it just seems like she's dancing around certain points, and honestly she didn't really need to address Fainted at all, especially when she only brings up the situation about how it's being framed. And one of the biggest problems is when you bring up the question of optics and not just the direct situation, it becomes very sketchy. The only thing that she actively goes out of her way to address Fainted on is the Instagram situation, and once again, if you can explain why you did this fairly enough, easy picking. You're pissed off that someone has taken your content, being an irritating bastard, and so to elicit your perception of justice against this Davsev twat, you think that he deserves to get the piss taken out of him, and so you go airing all your dirty laundry on the stream, and you admit that you went a bit too far, and you know what? That's pretty much what she said, and probably why Fainted doesn't bother addressing that part, because the majority of it is fairly agreeable.
The point of this is just to say that was an entirely different scenario and situation where I was well within my right to take down his content, but also in that moment and on that live stream. Like, I shouldn't have had that conversation on stream, and it definitely was a moment of frustration that shouldn't have been like publicized in that way. For sure.
But then she ends up at this point.
He had his Instagram linked in the description of the videos that he was posting, so it was not like a personal or private Instagram. I didn't attack the way that he looked, and obviously he was watching my stream while he was on the call with me, and he saw that I was looking at his Instagram. He said, "Do you like what you see?"
And once again, we end up in a situation over how someone was allowed to do something. The notion that she found his personal Instagram page because it was linked in the description. And honestly, once again, her point is not wrong. She can do what she wants. The fact that Davsev is a YouTuber, an adult, putting content on a public platform, and therefore any links he posts as public may be picked up by anyone. But it sounds like Pokimane interpreted the point against her as if she was doxing someone, rather than actually necessarily the point that Fainted was trying to make.
Okay, so this is the one part of the video that does kind of trigger me a little bit. So in Pokimane's logic, just because Davsev had his Instagram linked on one of his Twitch compilations, that gives her the right to display his Instagram in front of thousands of people on her Twitch stream. Someone who she openly dislikes and actually states earlier on in the stream is what is wrong with this world. So, you know, clearly giving off some great vibes towards this guy and encouraging her fans to send him lots of positive comments, right?
If people who don't like him want to take the piss out of him, they can go for it. I mean, hell, that's what people like Leafy did for a career, and they went after much more vulnerable targets. The point that Fainted was making was that it was rather distasteful to go out of your way to make fun of someone and expose them to that heat, especially when you have that power to really cause some potential harassment against them. Once again, something that you've already admitted was a fairly heated gamer moment, you're then arguing on the technicality, the one that really wasn't being argued in the first place. Honestly, if Poki had just turned around and said, yep, he got what he deserved, she may have come out looking better. And the only reason she can't really say that is because of the argument she had with Keemstar, where she took that moral position against bullying. And yes, you can see the parallels between the situations, and if she really wanted to work out how to make a proper response in that instance, she would have had to have worked out how to correctly express the distinction between that situation and this one. And that is the only way you can respond to something like hypocrisy. I think Poki genuinely wanted to try and have an open discussion, but the main point that she continuously made was that I shouldn't have done that, but it was in my rights to, which is not a good argument. You have to just say, honestly, I was pissed off, because it's okay to be pissed off. We're all human, we get annoyed. If someone was re-uploading my uploads, I'd be annoyed too. Because in many ways, that's what you seem to express, Poki. I'm making somewhat irrelevant points that are meant to serve as a defense, actually tend to serve as a distraction from what could have been a genuinely decent response video. Situation is a classic example of why commentators, even if their arguments aren't the most watertight at first, seem to keep winning these confrontations with YouTubers from other genres. I actually don't think many of Fainted's arguments were on closer inspection that strong, and if we wanted to pull up one example, we can pull up the clickbait one.
I'm not sure you guys are gonna like this.
Chat, what do I say to make him realize that it's an asshole thing to falsely clickbait someone else?
Okay, so basically Pokimane just cannot stand on her 2 feet and say that she is against clickbait content on YouTube. She essentially collabed with a YouTuber who goes by the name of Shotgun Plays, but realistically he should be called I Sound Like I'm Eating a Chicken Legend Every Time I Speak. And the reason this is a problem is because by playing with this dude, she essentially was supporting his content, and 90% of the stuff that he uploads is straight up misleading clickbait, so I don't really know what Poki's doing playing with this dude, honestly. By supporting this guy's videos, it just means that she can't go out of her way to suggest someone else making clickbait content isn't cool because, girl, I'm sorry, but you've supported probably the biggest Fortnite clickbait YouTuber.
Firstly, Pokimane in her original situation says it's an asshole thing to do to clickbait quote someone else.
Chat, what do I say to make him realize that it's an asshole thing to falsely clickbait someone else?
Clickbaiting Fortnite is not necessarily comparable, and even if Pokimane didn't express that point in the best way, we can see why she takes issue with someone using another person's arse in the thumbnail and not necessarily taking issue with people clickbaiting Fortnite.
Oh my god, you put somebody else's butt on a thingy of me.
Like, there is a clear difference there, a clear moral dissonance. Now that's just one argument, and the point of this video is not to go through every single point of Fainted's videos, and I agree with some, I disagree with others. I'm going to leave the direct response to my good friend BWC, check his video out. There were points that could have been made on Pokimane's behalf, but they slipped through the cracks because she clearly lacked the expertise to deal with the drama. Mainly because once again, Pokimane honestly wasn't specific enough with the point she was making, and often wavered on what she was trying to say. On one hand, she must have cared enough to think about what points she was trying to respond to, but didn't seem to care enough to specify or provide further evidence, which is a standard that a lot of commentary audiences are ravenous for. When I make my videos, I'm consistently returning to drafts of my videos and telling myself to use more clips, use more evidence. It's a demanding genre. You have to pay attention to the surrounding culture. Audiences on concept tend to have a bit of a bad taste regarding Twitch streamers due to previous instance, and then you have this commentator, Fainted, who is the underdog, and therefore many neutral viewers will like someone punching up. And so if you make any comments that seem misrepresentative, people will take that idea that this is the larger YouTuber trying to shut down the smaller one because they're the ones with that perceived power. One of the most common criticisms levied against larger YouTubers is hypocrisy. And the reason people do it because it's easy. Creators like Pokimane will make statements day in and day out and will forget them the day after. Comments will be made on whimsical sentiments, so it's easy to find one or two situations that contradict themselves. If you want to be a moral advocate in the community, you need nuance. The problem with lack of nuance is that, as said, you end up creating standards that you yourself will inevitably fail to live up to, especially if you use vague arguments to justify it. If you fail to distinguish the morality of situations that may seem similar on the surface, you will inevitably look like a hypocrite and people will point that out. I do not think Pokimane is a malicious person. Matter of fact, I quite like her, but it's clear through this situation she has revealed herself to be extremely naive, even dangerously naive. I mean, when she admits she doesn't understand the copyright system on YouTube.
Before it was taken down?
Yeah.
No.
Because I was suggesting to
Contact him for what?
I was just thinking, like, maybe with the whole strike system, I don't know if you're aware, on YouTube it's pretty bad for a channel for them to get a proper copyright strike. You can only get 3 and then your channel's deleted. So I was just thinking,
I believe
if you weren't happy with the video,
strike and not a copy strike.
It can be a copy strike.
You are a huge influencer. You have to look into the consequences that your actions might have after saying that you don't know what someone's going through. On top of this, as mentioned, Pokimane didn't actually strike but had Omnia deliver a claim which turned into a strike when Boblax appealed it. Once again, this information makes Pokimane seem much less malicious, but if she'd had more investment in the situation, she would have been able to find this out and then put this case forward for herself, rather than necessarily having other people bring it forward. So this is once again revealing of that naivety. And consequences are a two-way street. And with the Davsev situation, he came into your stream, spammed the chat with a load of bullshit scam links, directly uploaded content that wasn't his, had all his links public. He must have had some awareness that his actions have consequences too. He must have anticipated this as a
17-year-old.
And frankly, I find it extremely hard to sympathize with him. It may not be the route that I would have taken in dealing with it, but the framing of him as some kind of victim is one that is really made applicable due to Pokimane's significant clout and the fact that she doesn't know what he's going through. Words come back to haunt you. And that's one of the problems that seem apparent. We've walked down this spiraling road of drama and Pokimane is still stuck at square one. And it seemed that with every livestream, every discussion, every time she made a point, she just seemed to lose more and more credibility because she wants to accept some of the criticism, but at the same time she still feels she has a case. And I feel she does in a way. But unfortunately, she would be constantly undone by some of the legitimate hypocrisy displayed due to lack of justification. Pokimane wants to play both teams, but ends up playing neither because she wants to both submit to the points and yet counter them. When she does try to justify herself, they can feel like they're unnecessary. One of the very weird techniques that I observed Pokimane partake in throughout the drama was this sort of response, where she appeared to agree with the point being made against her, but at the same time, she words it in a way that makes it sound like she's rebutting it. A great example of this is here.
He sent a copyright strike, right,
Yes,
to
it
your
was
video.
a strike, not
and
a claim.
my suggestion was, like, I personally think it would have been a better idea had she DM'd you on Twitter and said, yo, Boblax, would you mind taking down this video? So then it means she can get what she wants, obviously the video taken down, and then you don't get a copyright strike to your channel. Just like some form of contact before initiating that,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I totally get your point. I would like to say, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I mentioned this to Boblax in DMs way later, that I wasn't fully aware about the situation and how copy strikes affected someone's channel. I was under the assumption that full-on strikes are what take down a channel once you get 3, and I thought that it was different to copy strike a video than to strike an entire channel.
What we see here is basically Poki saying she was ignorant, but wording it in a way as if that is a defense against the point that Fainted made, rather than just saying that as a multi-million subscriber channel, she probably shouldn't have been that ignorant in the first place, which is the point that a lot of people were making. And I'm not sure she's entirely aware she's doing it. A lot of processes in our reasoning are rather subconscious, but this sort of technique will always rub people the wrong way because of how it appears. But you see the point I'm making here. On one hand, you have fainted, who in spite of the possible flaws of argumentation has presented points in an articulate, systematic and firm way, and on the other you have Pokimane, who, whether there are points there or not, fall through because she can't seem to compartmentalize criticism into specifics and ends up just spray firing her defenses. And honestly, the stream highlights that difference. When you put these two people against each other, the contrast is so vast. And this is the power of critical commentary. When you've done this for a while, it just puts you in a different league. A majority of the reason the Pokimane was called out, on top of the copyright strike, was her hypocrisy. And to bring it back to my first point of the video, I'm sure many of you guys won't be surprised to find out that it's fairly easy to point out hypocrisy in many of the Twitch streamers. Pretty much anyone who doesn't spend an hour a day evaluating their morality. It doesn't mean they're bad people, it just means they're not always thinking about it. And it's just a case of when they're put into that rotation, many people from other genres just don't think about it, and we commentators do. And I don't think that's a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with pushing for consistency, but it is a difference, and one that has to be accepted. And I don't dislike Pokimane because many people like Jake Paul and Rice Gum have done terrible stuff, and they barely address it at all. And Pokimane tried to come forward and try to hit it, and she was just out of her depth in trying to retrospectively explain a morality that she knows she probably didn't think too much about at the time. But at the same time, in her head, she feels that she's a good person, and I understand that. But unfortunately, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. You see, you can't justify what you already deem unjustifiable, and you can't defend what you've already deemed to be indefensible. And you can't rationalize what you've deemed to be irrational. So to finish, responding to commentators is risky business. The reason I don't do these videos on people like Rice Gum is because they don't care about their reputation when they respond. Pokimane clearly does. So I'll leave these points. Make sure your responses are tight. Make sure people know exactly what points you're addressing. Make sure you use evidence very clearly. Make sure you work out the concessions that they make and points that you might agree on, such as the point that Davsev is an annoying twat. And then work out how you can use those agreements of premises to bring that person around to your in-the-moment perspective, even if complete agreement is not quite possible. That is the summary of wisdom that I can leave you with today, and I hope you can take something away from it if you are indeed watching. So yeah, that was the video. Once again, very, very impressive. Thank you guys for the support of recent. I would love to hear your comments on the situation below, because it was quite an interesting one. Definitely one of the more split situations where a lot of it just came down to how you speak. And I love those situations because it's really interesting how people's perspectives are actually much more shaped sometimes by how someone presents their point rather than what points they have. And so I love investigating these. I want to give a big shout out to my editors who've done another fabulous job. Please go and check them out. I'll leave their links in the pinned comment. Big shout out to Patreons too, all of you lovely lads and lasses, and everyone who donates, much appreciated. Really does make a difference. Big shout out to Connor, who is my $50 Patreon. I have to give a shout out to Some Hullabaloo, another great $50 Patreon. Thank you so much. Lots of love. Have to give a shout out to Ryan, who is a $100 Patreon. I mean, respect the hustle, man. And Brandon, who is a $100 Patreon. Truly, I am truly blessed by all of you. I don't have too much else to say. If you want to message me, if you want to speak with me, my Twitter DMs are open. Facebook too, Discord as well. Links will be in the description, pinned comment. Go and check them out. Don't really have too much else to say, so I hope you guys are having a great day, and I hope this made it a bit better. Take care, guys. Love you lot.